tell me how your libido is and I'll tell you how well you are, because it can be such an, also just like a menstrual cycle, such a vital way to measure like how are women actually doing in their health, because it is one of those end stream things. And so if we're not if we don't have the energy, if we don't have the mental capacity to even think about things like pleasure, um, then it's going to be one of the first things to.
Welcome to the Precision Total Health Podcast, your go-to resource for high-value, no-fluff episodes that give you the tools to optimize your health and perform at your best as a mission-driven female leader. I'm Lori Aikman, former college athlete, seasoned nurse practitioner, and founder of Precision Total Health, a concierge functional medicine practice. Let's get started. Tracy, I'm excited to catch up with you today and chat. I guess a little backstory for our listeners is you and I were in Michelle Rogers' clinical mentorship together. Gosh, what has that been 2 years ago now that we were in the mentorship together?
I feel like we started, in the fall, maybe 2 years ago. It's about right.
Something like that. Yeah, remember we kind of ended at the end of like year end, but it wasn't last year, year before, I think.
Yes.
Anyways, it's been a little while since we were learning together. So, yeah. So tell us a little bit about you and what you do and like what your niche is.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me on, Laura. I really appreciate the
Yeah.
opportunity. I got into the health space world, much like many people, through my own health journey. So I found myself after my fifth baby was born with a host of mysterious symptoms that I could not get to the bottom of. And having been a registered nurse and having my interests in the functional medicine world for years prior, just from a general, raising my kids in a healthy environment type of way, I read all the books, I followed all the doctors, and I really tried to get to the root cause of what was going on for me. And by the time I resurfaced from what for me was about a 5-year health journey, I looked back and said, I've got to help women who were stuck in the trenches just like I was. And so it put me on a path of using my prior medical education to looking for functional medicine certifications for a way that I could help women in a virtual capacity learn how to balance their own bodies, to get their health back, and to feel vital again. My whole thing was I had 5 children that I was homeschooling, and they all demanded every bit and more from my life. And I don't know where I found any resources to give them. And I felt like, how could I spend another afternoon on the couch or dinner trying to prep food with the focus of like, I just feel so bad. And yet to me, it felt like motherhood is supposed to be one of the best seasons of life. And here I was consumed by all these other symptoms happening. So I ended up turning all of that pain into a passion project of sorts, and began to make myself available for women with functional medicine testing, and found very quickly that there were lots of women just like me. Some had been suffering chronic illness, mysterious symptoms, etc. for years. Some knew what was wrong and some did not. They just knew that they didn't feel right. And so there's the whole spectrum of the awareness that women have about their bodies. Some are just like, yeah, I have a little brain fog, but doesn't everybody? And it's interesting because as I help women get their health back, they go, I had no idea how sick I actually was. Because they go, I just thought that that was part of this phase of life. When you're in your 30s and your 40s or you're a mom, you're like, we're all exhausted. That's just the way it is. But that's actually not the way it has to be. And when people find balance and people start sleeping through the night and they wake up and they feel refreshed, and they can, they can't imagine how much their to-do list they can actually tackle. When they get their libido back and they feel like they're in their teenage years again, it's like, I had no idea what I was missing. And so it's interesting because I do feel like there's a sense of urgency too, of like, life is short. Why spend it with all these symptoms or feeling less than your best? So for me, I love the idea of helping women regain that vitality, that energy, that sort of joie de vivre that makes us women, that spark. And we can all feel it either for the first time or again. And so that's one of the things I absolutely love helping women do, is to find that part of them again that makes them feel alive.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I love it. I love it. So good. And yes, I mean, you and I do, I think the work we do is probably similar in how we help patients, obviously, since we did it, have trained similarly. Agreed. I know so many women that like, I just thought this was my normal. I didn't, yeah, realize how bad I felt because it just had become my normal for so many years. And it's just insane that, I think that insidious onset, it's just, gradually. And I'm sure the same for you. So many women, it's like, well, yeah, it's been since my last baby, might be something that they say. And their baby is 10 or 11 years old. So they've literally been feeling bad for 10 or 11 years, right? And
Yes, and it doesn't help that every time they go try to look for help, let's say to a family doctor, or if they get pushed off to a specialist, or maybe they return to an OBGYN, they take conventional blood tests and they're told that they're normal. And so, what I think women begin to expect of themselves, the standard decreases over time, and that compounds the way that they feel. And they just go, well, you win some, you lose some. And I think we get a little nonchalant about how good we can feel. And we don't have a lot of shining examples of people in our culture necessarily, or even in our little circles of community of people who feel awesome. So we don't really know what the standard should be. We just
yeah,
know that, like, uh, I'm making it. I'm surviving
mm,
the day and everybody's alive. And so
yeah,
we just get a little bit used to low levels of fatigue and casual mood swings and just a little bit of weight gain. And we just sort of brush it off like it's all part of the normal aging process. To be clear, there's a certain amount of surrender that I think we all go through in life where you can't control everything. You can't make everything. It's not about it all being just right. I think when you know, tapping into that intuition that says, I think something is off, those are
mhm,
the clients that get the best results because they have a motivation or a drive inside that says, but I think I'm meant for more. And
yes,
that's the perfect female client who's just like, it's out there, it's attainable. I just need the roadmap to get there. And
mhm.
that's a really fun client to work with.
Yeah, definitely. I would agree. Yeah. Like, I've got to be able to feel better than this. This can't be normal. Right.
Yes, yes.
So, how did you find because tell me the name of your business, your program, that you use to work, that you work
Yeah,
with
well,
women.
right now I'm running a 90-day program called the Balanced Hormone Solution. And
Mhm.
this is, we start with the Dutch Complete test. We start with, that's an at-home urine test that's looking at hormone metabolites. So unlike a blood test that many will get when they go to their doctor and say, I want to test my hormones, we'll get a blood test. We'll look at estrogen, progesterone, etc. And that's where these numbers on a blood test are shifting every single day, and they're very hard to ever accurately pin down. Now, if you want to look at thyroid, perfect, use a blood test. But things like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone really are best tested through the urine. So we start there. And because I want to know where you're at. Part of this the foundation of this 90-day program is four pillars. The first one is personalized testing, functional medicine testing, because everybody is unique. Everybody has a different picture that makes up their hormonal reality. And without knowing exactly what's going on, it feels a lot like guesswork. It feels a lot like whack a mole. Like, is the mood swing from blood sugar or is it really from PMS? So, testing is very, very foundational to that. The second pillar would be lifestyle medicine. As you know, like we could all just take supplements, handfuls of supplements, forever and ever ad nauseum. But that's not really what we're wanting to do. We really want to create a platform for optimization in the body. And it's so much more than the pills that we swallow. If we can back up the way that we feel with the things that we do morning, noon, and night, we can sustain lasting change and improvement. And we can really create a lifestyle that promotes optimal health. And it has
Mhm.
to be a part of the healing process. The third thing is I call transformational thinking, but it's essentially mindset. The way that we look at ourselves has everything to do with the way that we feel about ourselves. We all have a tape, audio recording the things that we're telling ourselves in our head day in and day out. And it's beneficial to stop and listen to what that recording is saying. If we're telling our things like, I've always felt this way. I will always feel this way. I'm never going to get better. This isn't really meant for me. I've tried all these things. And it's just a loop of despair. It's very hard to crawl out of that just by taking different supplements, right? We need to also affect the way that we think about ourselves. So I love to do a lot of self-image work. The fourth thing is just detoxification, because we live in this world where we are encountering air, food, and water on every single level. We cannot get away from it. And we have a toxic burden that we are managing in our bodies every single day, which is a main contributor to a lot of the imbalance that we feel. So in these 90 days, we work on all of these things. We start with the test. We work on a thread of detoxification, incorporating a morning and evening routine that is manageable no matter where you're at. Like right now, I'm working with a nurse who works nights. It's hard to balance your cortisol curve and to deal with stress level and to optimize your circadian rhythm
Yeah.
when you're up every night at 3 a.m. and you go to bed at 10 a.m. It's very hard to to get balanced hormones and to manage that type of curve when you have a lifestyle that, really is day to night, night to day.
Mhm.
But it can be done. So we do that. We wear continuous glucose monitors to manage glucose. Because we're working within this. A lot of people, I think where we go wrong. Let me just start here. Is I think where we go wrong is we say, oh, we have low progesterone, put a cream on. So this is the most classic example where we begin to look to pharmaceuticals for hormone balancing. Not saying that we might never need exogenous hormonal help. However, it's probably not the best place to start for most women. And the reason is because if we have a deficit of a hormone, it doesn't help just to add in the one piece that we're missing. Because the thing that might be wrong in this whole picture is, can we utilize the hormones in our bodies? Like, can we metabolize hormones? So this is a problem. We all know the friends, or we've tried it ourselves, where we're low on hormones because we took a test that said we're low on hormones. We add in the hormones and we gain 20 pounds. Like, there's a reason why the body stores all these excess hormones in the fat cells. It's like it can't the hormone into a usable form and then our body actually use it up. So any excess gets stored into fat. So just adding hormones on as a prescription is not always the best place to start. So we have to go upstream and really work on cortisol and insulin before we ever get to the juicy hormones of the sex hormones like estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. And I find that when we start upstream and we eventually get to those sex hormones, if anything additional is needed, it's utilized by the body. The body is ready to metabolize it. We're not storing excess in fat and experiencing weight gain. Or, like, if we get the dosage right, you can have hair loss and mood swings by too much of it. So it can feel like a very hard process to get it just right. But the balanced hormone solution is just a 90-day time period to work together, testing to optimization, And it
Mhm.
takes about that amount of time to really begin to see a shift in this river of this delicate dance of
Mhm.
balancing
Yeah.
hormones.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. I know I always tell my patients like the follicle has a 100-day life cycle. So it's going to take 90 days, 100 days to see the full effect of these changes that we're making right now. Because then that follicle's coming 100 days later, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Mhm.
And we all learned in high school biology, hormones are like these chemical messengers. And I think I had a light bulb moment in my own professional and personal life when I began to realize that hormones really are not the problem. Like they're not the enemy per se. And it works best to not really even view them as a root cause issue because they are just
Agreed.
simply carrying out the instructions of the environment of our bodies. And that's
Mhm.
our minds and our physical bodies. So they're
Mhm.
literally just following orders. And
Mhm.
what I see time and time again is if we can input different instructions and different orders, we get a different output. We get a different expression of these chemical messengers. If we give a different environment. For example, light is really fascinating to me, like natural light versus artificial light. Like, why is sunrise so important in the morning? It's like, what if you just change one thing in your life and just made it natural light first thing in the morning? You gave yourself 10 minutes. Everything that affects ends up informing all of the chemical processes and biofeedback loops and everything to give us the outcome of a different hormonal picture. And so I think it's really amazing because it's a process of putting in different information to get out different results. And sometimes it can feel a little bit mysterious because it's like, how much of this do we put in? How it's like baking a cake. It's not an exact science. Everybody might need a little bit different of this, a little bit different of that. Not everybody struggles with sleep. Not everybody struggles with, um, low energy or PMS or something like that. But finding your unique recipe, creating the environment to change the hormonal picture downstream is just where it's at. So I love how when you think about you put a little bit different here, like if you put cinnamon and ginger, your cookies are going to end up tasting a little bit more like fall,
Yeah.
pumpkin spice, If you put chocolate and vanilla, it's going to taste a little bit like that. Hormones work like that. If we put a
Mhm.
little bit of this in and a little bit of that in the beginning, we end up with a totally different picture. So we always have to look deeper and more upstream to see like
I
what's
love
the original recipe, how can we tweak that to get a different end product.
Yes. Agreed. Agreed. I love the cookie analogy too.
It's Thanksgiving week. I'm like, I've got baking on my
Yeah.
mind.
Yes. No, it's such a good, yeah, it's so great. And I think I had a conversation with a physician. I can't remember off the top of my, oh, she's a chiropractor that does functional medicine. And we were having that conversation of just, it's great that the BHRT community, the conversation about perimenopause, there's all this conversation about perimenopause now, which is great. We're talking about this more, but yes, it's still, if we're just like, hormones are out of balance, let's give hormones to get hormones back in balance, right? We're missing the whole, it's like, I thought of this analogy the other day. You're coming in, you're taking your car to the mechanic and you're like, my car won't start, and it's because you have no gas, but then you also, your engine's gunked up and you have a flat tire. You're like, I just need, I don't know, there's like multiple problems going on and you just want the mechanic to fix one problem, but then your car's still not going to run great. That's what I think of with BHRT or something like that, which to if anybody's listening, I made a post the other day and somebody said, what's BHRT? So bioidentical hormone therapy. We're just doing hormones, right? Replacing the hormones. We're missing a bigger picture that's going on in the body.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that I think that even if we end up still using bioidentical hormones in the
Mhm.
end, if we address balancing hormones from this hierarchy where we first address these other more
Mhm.
um, mother type hormones, then we might need just a very small amount to
Mm.
help with that
Yeah.
uh, tweaking here and there. But if we, for example, if we just go for progesterone cream right off the bat because, well, you're a woman over 35 and you can't sleep well, so you must need progesterone cream, and then you pile on symptoms like weight gain and what if you have too much and now you feel lethargic throughout the day. It's like it can just get to be this teeter totter, too much, too little. And but what if all along we worked on some of the more upstream things like our stress response, which is never going away no matter what age we are as women, and is a particularly challenging issue all the way through perimenopause and menopause. It's going to be our biggest skeleton in the closet at any age. We might as well address hormones from that perspective. What about, weight, etc.? We cannot ignore insulin because when cortisol and insulin are high, we're not going to be making progesterone. If we're not
Mhm.
making progesterone, then we have this other issue happening over here. And so our body's always going to prioritize survival. And when we're underneath a stress response, we can take all the progesterone we want to make, but we're not going to be using it in the body unless we can get our cortisol levels lower. So it really is a big picture. It takes looking at the body in a bigger picture instead of just here's a round hole. Let me fit, a round peg in it. It doesn't really work like that when it comes to hormones because there's a lot at play.
When you and I were in the mentorship together, you were saying like helping women get it back, that joie de vivre, type of thing. What does that look like with your clients, and what you see? You and I were chatting a little bit about how we see a lot of women with low libido that are coming in, maybe when they're coming in to see us, like how has that evolution been, and what do you find, are the commonalities in your patients?
Yeah, it's really interesting because it's hard to have a strong sex drive if you're depressed, if you're exhausted, or if you feel unwell. But I mean, it's almost like what's left to give. And especially as you move through motherhood years and you've been carrying a baby physically inside of your body, you go through the massive transformation of giving birth. And then if you're able to breastfeed, you've got a year or two of being touched in lots of ways. And it can often feel like you're just done with all of that. And the problem is our libido is like a vital sign. And I love when I think it was the American College of Gynecology and Obstetrics that added the menstrual cycle as the fifth vital sign. I think that's so powerful for women to have that recognized as like a part of our health. It's a measurement. It's like a biomarker. So is our libido. It's like I almost, I don't want you to stand on a scale. I don't want to touch your blood pressure almost. It's like, tell me how your libido is and I'll tell you how well you are. Because it can be also just like a menstrual cycle, such a vital way to measure like how are women actually doing in their health. Because it is one of those end stream things. And so if we don't have the energy, if we don't have the mental capacity to even think about things like pleasure, then it's going to be one of the first things to go. So, it's really interesting when you're looking at a low libido picture in a client because it can really be from so many different factors. Interestingly, I find anyway that a lot of libido issues are more emotional than they are physical. I think physical can absolutely be a component there because anytime our body is wrapped up in using its extra reserves in survival, whether that's lowering our stress load, trying to tackle inflammation, or dealing with toxins in our body that don't belong there that just make us feel unwell. I think after that, a lot of it is just like the way we view ourselves, and it's the way we it's the nature of our relationship, not just to our partner, but to ourselves, how we view ourselves. And so I think it's really important to take a deeper look into, like I was mentioning before, the story that we tell ourselves. I think the way that we approach low libido can be from a perspective of however we've approached it before, and we get stuck in a rut, and we can begin to view that part of our lives as a always never situation. Well, I never had it before, so I'm never going to have it now. I hear that a whole lot. And so I think we can get into places where we know that we're just not where we could be, but we don't know how to cross over there. Interestingly, I find one of the most important factors in boosting libido in people's lives has nothing to do with supplements per se, but it is through balancing blood sugar and losing weight. I
Mhm.
I find that like some actually just come more alive when they match the image that they have in themselves, that they have in their own mind. For example, I think it's a crucial part of the healing journey to match the outside with the inside, how we're looking and feeling on the outside, how we're looking and feeling on the inside. And what I mean by that is when we it starts with the acceptance, the loving ourselves. Like they say, you can't ever hate yourself into a new pair of pants, new size of pants.
Yeah.
You have to accept yourself where you are right now in order to get to the place that you want to be. But when we have that growth mindset, that when we have the vision of who our future self is, and we begin to work our way to that, and becoming healthy in mind, body, and soul has everything to do with that. Through balancing blood sugar, losing weight, women find a new version of themselves. And in that, there is a part of them that is, by the journey that they just went through, a sort of renewal. And I just see this more often than not. Not everybody needs to lose weight or be on a weight loss journey, but the women who find themselves with a lower self image and
Mhm.
a lot of negative self talk, when they begin to lose excess weight, it becomes a vehicle to open up this new part of themselves where they're interaction with themselves plus their partner is able to go to a newer level or a deeper level than
Yeah.
before.
I think too, when I met my husband, I was just much more confident in our relationship. And I think that that had a bigger effect as when I was younger and maybe in some relationships where I didn't feel as confident, it was because I mean, when I was younger, I was in better shape than I am now, so it wasn't, I don't know, I think there is, yeah, some piece of that, just that emotional or being more confident in your body, more, less insecurity, I'm just speaking being younger, not necessarily, it wasn't necessarily heavier, but I was definitely insecure, more insecure when I was younger and just more security now as I've gotten older.
Yeah, and it's not even about a number on a scale by any
Yeah.
means. And it's not even about the the shape that you are able to maintain, but what I find is that women who are prioritizing their health to whatever capacity that they can, there is a sense of empowerment and ownership that comes when that clarity and the confidence that you're describing comes when you have a whole plan that communicates ultimately at the end of the day that you are worth the effort, that you yourself are worth getting 10 minutes of sunshine in the morning. You're worth a healthy and nutritious meal. You are worth limiting alcohol. You are worth finding a routine that can help you minimize stress in your life. You are worth taking supplements that you know you are low on to give yourself a better nutritional footing. When we put little bite-sized pieces of effort into ourselves, it
Mhm.
comes back in confidence in spades. So women who even just prioritize their health, as opposed to a woman who might feel like, I don't feel great, but this is the way it's going to be. That that one is harder because there is already a sense of resignation. However, when we begin to open ourselves up to the possibility that we can feel better, that we deserve to feel better, and that we might not know how to get there, but we're gonna figure it out. It's like it's an open-mindedness. Then there is a peace and a confidence that comes with that. And even if you're not at your goal right now, I mean, because this is a journey, right? And we're just a little bit better today than we were yesterday. Women
Yeah.
who are putting some effort into maintaining or achieving their health wherever they're at have more of a ability to surrender in the process of making love with their partner, of experiencing orgasm, of letting go, of this kind of thing. Because there's like that empowerment that I'm talking about, there's a sense of like, I'm doing what I can. And
Mhm.
that's a really big piece to the puzzle is making steps on a daily basis to do what you can to achieve better health. There's a real peace that comes with that. And when there's that peace there, we can find ourselves in less in survival mode and more in
Yeah.
thriving mode, which is where we all want to be.
What are some books? I know you've posted before, like on Instagram, some of your favorite books. Are there books you recommend to your clients, like on this topic?
Ooh, I love anything by Dr. Laura Briden. She's
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. She's a naturopath,
Hmm.
writes a lot about hormonal health. She has one
Hmm.
on metabolic health. She has a hormone
Have you read
reset
the new
manual.
one?
Yeah.
I haven't read that
So
one yet. I have her other two right here.
yeah, so good. I also love Dr. Sarah Godfrey's book on the hormone cure. Very
Mhm.
sensible advice. It's almost like an entire doctor's visit in, 300 pages. It's quite a chunk. You can get it on audiobook and listen while on your morning walks is what I did. I really do love that book. She talks a lot about the lifestyle piece. It's very realistic. I love when doctors start including the lifestyle piece into balancing hormones. It's like we have to have both pieces in the whole picture, and she explains it really, really nicely. Let's see. I also love Dr. Mindy Pels.
Mhm.
She has a new book she just released, Eat Like a Girl. She had a book that she released, Fast Like a Girl, which was like how to incorporate the advanced techniques of fasting lifestyles for hormonal health. The new one came out, and it's mostly a cookbook, but the
Mhm.
first 50 or 60 pages or so are like some of the best hormone advice out there and how we can manage hormones throughout all stages of our life. So I really, really love those. I'd say those are probably my top books that I love to read and recommend.
Yeah, all great ones.
There's a lot of pioneers in the world of hormonal health that we ought to be really thankful for. And I feel like more than ever before, we have access to information and understanding this whole mystery of the aging
Yeah.
process. And like you mentioned before, our generation is experiencing the effects of decades on birth control because that's what we were told would balance
Yeah.
out our hormones and fix those mood swings and those terrible periods from teenage years. Women got on the birth control pill and then they're early 40s and they're just getting off and they have no idea what a natural cycle actually feels like. We also have
Mhm.
come out of that low fat diet craze and we've binged on bagels for breakfast and granola for breakfast. And as long as it was low fat, no fat, it was good. And so we have a whole generation that's reaping the rewards of the advice from decades before. And so hormone health is, like you said, menopause is like such a big topic right now, menopause and perimenopause, because so many women are suffering from the bad advice that we have been following for the last 20, 30 years.
Mhm.
Doctors coming out to talk about how to actually achieve balanced hormones. It's a real gift to humanity.
Yeah, yeah. Are there any you've read on libido or like just from a more holistic point of view?
I find that the topic of libido is a chapter in a lot of hormone books, but not necessarily entire books in the natural health world, anyway,
Yeah.
dedicated just to that. There are books that I enjoy and recommend for people who are wanting to think more about how to expand this whole part of their life. An interesting one that I feel like should be given to every single married couple, no matter how old or young you are, but there is something called the Vagina Bible and the Penis Bible. Those two books are like foundational educational
Yeah.
pieces that are all about just familiarizing yourself with the biology and the physiology of the way that we are made. And
Yeah.
so I think that those books belong on most people's bookshelves. Also, as part of those books, you can read lots about, you know, disorders or things that happen, yeast infections or bacterial vaginosis. Like there are health pieces that go along with these books, but even just being comfortable enough to read about your own biology and physiology, I think is a lot of the process there. And let's see, looking at my bookshelf right now as I think about it.
I just thought of one. I'd love to have her on the podcast sometime too. But have you ever heard of Dr. Jordan Wiggins?
Oh yes.
She's a
Yes.
naturopath. Her book is called The Pink Canary. I've not read it.
Yes.
I'm going to add it to my list.
I
But
have
I know
that
she's
book.
a naturopath. You do? Okay. Yeah.
Yes, that one is very, very good. I also love the book She Comes First.
Yeah. That was another one I was thinking of.
That is a really good book, especially in terms of like the sexual process, how to think about really for the female, like how to unwind and how to let go
Mhm.
and how to receive pleasure. I think that is a really important concept. And let me see. The Women's Encyclopedia.
Mhm.
Uh,
I looked in that one recently and hers, yeah, basically just said
yeah.
it's more multifactorial, right? I was like looking like somebody help me out here. I think I had a patient in particular where we had done a lot of the things, but the libido was still, not where she wanted it to be. And so I
And yeah, and sometimes it might come down to a relationship counseling. It just depends on
mhm,
the dynamic of the relationship. And something that I think is easily overlooked is like your own physical environment. If you
mhm,
think about the bedroom as like a sacred place where you want to
mhm,
keep it clutter free, maybe you want to put artwork on the wall that reminds you of something that's a little bit sensual. I had a friend once who told me she was out shopping and bought this huge painting of this orchid because of the nature of like the orchid as it was opening its flower, and
mhm,
she put it right above her bed, and she said it was the best thing she ever did for her sex life because every time she saw this, it reminded her to relax and to open and to surrender, much like a
mhm.
flower blossoms. Candles on your nightstand, having a
Yeah,
routine, 100% get any kind of work stuff out of the bedroom. You know, bedrooms are for sex and sleep. That's it. No work, no dirty laundry that needs or
yeah,
clean laundry that needs to be folded on the foot of the bed. If you're at a place with your children and whatnot, keeping children out of the bed or protecting the bedtime period, at least having some of the night or the morning where you can know that there is some privacy there also helps. So just like protecting the entire physical environment, creating a space that makes you feel nurturing and soft and warm and surrendering. Just decluttering the mind in the bedroom, I
Mhm.
think can be a game changer for a lot of women.
Yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, so true. And I was thinking of just while we're on this topic, I've had some neck pain that's triggering has triggered migraines for me at times. And just there was a time recent, where I'm not somebody who's had a lot of chronic pain, and it's just something that's come up recently that yeah, when I'm hurting, it's much harder to like be in the moment and stuff when I've like got this migraine and like neck pain going on. So just speaking to yeah, if you're really struggling with health problems of like getting to the root of those so that you can, I mean, not just in that area, but so many areas in your life, right?
Yes, for sure. Which is why, if we address it from a natural health perspective, I think we have excellent chances getting to the root cause and resolving it. Another thing is like if you've heard the saying, the more, completely relates to the sex life. Like women in particular, men too, but typically women can get into a routine of going for
Mhm.
long periods of time without any sexual intimacy. And when we get into that, stuck in that rut, it takes like a lot to get the gears cranking again and as to want to get involved onto that level. However, if we find that we have a regular routine, even if you
Mm.
go as far as scheduling sex, which I think is
Yeah.
very appropriate during certain times of life, getting
Yeah.
involved into triggering events that lead to the sexual intimacy that you and your partner need, like whatever those routines can be, like massages or bathtubs, or like I said, lighting candles. It's fun to have little signals that you can have to your partner, like, "Oh, he knows anytime the candles are lit, that's what that means," or you go to bed without clothes
Yeah.
on that night, or you have these little cues. But anyway, the more, it's physiologically proven that the more good sex women have, the more good sex women want.
Yeah.
And we need to like sort of grease that wheel, so to speak, in order to find that routine, to find what works. And then it's
Mm.
just a matter of keeping it going. It's much like our health. Once you've achieved your symptomless day with energy and vitality, it's like, don't look back, keep building on that. And our sex
Yeah.
life is very similar. Once we begin to
Mhm.
find the things that are the obstacles, then we begin to see a clearer path forward. And it's a
Mhm.
matter of just building on that routine and that habit and sticking to this path forward.
Yeah. Love that. Love that. Yes. I think so true. I haven't heard that said that way, the more, but totally makes sense.
Yeah, it's like, when we deal with the holidays and all the sugar that comes with like all the pies for Thanksgiving or Christmas cookies in December. And, then we get stuck in this rut, or we're starting to crave all these foods. And so as health
Yeah.
practitioners, we're like trying to help our clients eat healthier, eat more whole foods, to incorporate more fiber into their diet, etc. And it's like, if you can just get over like this 3 to 7 day hump, you will begin to crave healthy foods. And,
Yeah.
you use a candy in your mouth, it'll be like, ooh, gross to you. And it's hard to imagine that if you're eating a constant diet of processed, sugary
Mhm.
foods. But once you get to the other side, you're like, wow, like you just absolutely love a good steak, some roasted broccoli or something like that. It's hard to imagine though when you're used to fast food. Similar with our sex lives, it's like it seems so distant if it's far away and you're not even
Mhm.
interested or whatever. It's like we have to go through a period of time sometimes. So like women in my program, I'll have them do like a 30-day sex challenge, like have sex every single day for 30 days.
Uh-huh.
Just do it. Like it
Yeah.
is a chore. Yes, check it off your box. I don't care.
Yeah.
Get it done.
Yeah.
And I find that like around day 7, it's not a chore anymore because women
Yeah.
are beginning to crave it with some more the more.
Yeah.
Women are beginning to go, actually, I really like this. That time, that worked really well. And you begin to weed out, your own little system, what you like, what he likes, what this and that. And all of a sudden you're like off to the races. It's like
Yeah.
takes a little bit of effort. But once you get to the other side, you'll look back and go,
Mhm.
wow, look how far we've come.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's great. I've heard of that, or like Sexy September, or yeah, just like 30 days. I think even when I was back in the NP school 13 plus years ago now, I remember one of my classmates was saying that they were doing like a 30-day straight, and like,
Yeah.
it was funny to hear her progression as the time went on of like how it really was beneficial for them.
Yeah, I think there's a misconception, and I had it too, that the idea of planning or scheduling was
Mhm.
going to reduce like the feelings of spontaneity or the spark or the excitement, but I think it's actually the opposite. For one, if you
Mhm.
know it's coming, you and your partner are committed to it, then you can't help but think about it during the day. And it is one of the things that like you light a little flame and it ignites and it becomes a large fire. The whole process of, arousal in the body, like they say, you've heard the cliche, like, how do you make love to a woman in the night is you start first thing in the morning. Like a woman
Mhm.
needs to be romanced and
Yeah.
spoken kindly and, a cup of coffee and here's flowers and, oh, I'll do the dishes. And all of these things contribute to how willing the woman is to surrender and open up at the end of the day kind of
Yeah.
thing. Well,
Yeah.
if you've got this type of schedule and routine, you find new patterns and you find that like it's easier to think more about it. If you're thinking more about it, you're giving your brain more opportunities to be aroused. If you have more
Mhm.
opportunities to be aroused, then you think more about it. It's like this cycle in the most
Yeah.
beautiful way. That's how it creates that the more
Mhm.
situation in our life where all of a sudden we're now in a new pattern and a new
Yeah.
routine, and it took planning and commitment to get there. How boring. But the result is exactly what you were looking for. So
Yeah.
sometimes it's just trying something new.
That's great. We're in the season of, yes, planning, because we have small children who are awake all the time. It's hard, just our capacity with kids. But it's funny. I don't know if I'm in some like forums with other, just health spaces, other practitioners. I can't remember which one this was in. It might have been in, anyways, somebody was asking about libido, and same, some her patient had failed, what is it called? Addie is the female libido drug, I think, ADDYI. Anyways, she just was like, does anybody else have any other recommendations, any other things that's worked? And this man was like, I'm no expert, but when I'm more helpful around the house, my wife is more responsive.
Yeah.
I was like, everyone was like, smart man, commenting on his post. It was funny.
Yeah, I mean, mental margin and mental load is a real thing for
Hmm.
females in particular. We manage a whole lot. We're thinking about 1,000 things at any given moment. And so anytime we can offload any of those things, then we can have more time to think about ourselves. Like you think about the Maslow hierarchy of needs, right? It's like
Hmm.
if you're stuck in that bottom level of just surviving, you're nowhere near self actualization. An orgasm
Yes.
is the last thing on your mind. You're just trying to make it through the day. You're just trying to
Yes.
crash on your pillow and get some sleep. So, the more that we can get out of that survival mode, which is why dealing with cortisol and
Yeah.
excess insulin is like the key to turning this entire ship around, because it's not just feeling tired for no good reason because you have a lot to do during the day. I mean, there are a lot of hormones at play of why we might feel exhausted, and it's keeping us in survival mode. So, coming full circle, it's like, dealing with the libido issue, we have to go back to all of the factors that are keeping us in survival mode. If we're in survival mode, we're not in sexy mode. And so, how do we
Hmm.
alleviate the pressures on one side so that we can increase the benefits on the other? And it takes a little bit of detective work, a little bit of patience, but it's well worth all the effort.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Well said. Thank you so much. This has been awesome. You've provided so many great resources, today, I think for people that are maybe in that boat and wanting to feel, like you said, vital again and alive, stuck in that unwell that they think is so normal.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So Tracy, if people want to get a hold of you, where's the best place to do that? Website, anything exciting you have going on in your world coming up?
Yeah, follow me on Instagram. It's at Tracy Erin Wellness, TracyErin Wellness. You can follow me there. I've got a balanced hormone solution group starting up the first of the year in January. So if that sounds good to you, let's get in touch about that. I do have a website, same name, TracyErinWellness.com. You can follow me along there. I'd love to hear from you.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thanks so much. Awesome. And we'll put those links in the show notes so that they don't have to search. They can just click on the link below in the show notes. So awesome. Well, thank you,
Awesome. Thank
Tracy.
you.
It's been great.
Thank you.